today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this per veteran boxing scribe, Mike Kopinger, who says, the Raymond Muratalla versus Zaur Abdullaev IBF interim lightweight title fight is headed for May 10th in San Diego, sources told ESPN, and will be on ESPN and ESPN+. On the undercard, Emmanuel Navarette versus Charlie Suarez in the main event. Suarez is a 36-year-old Filipino who has never competed for a world title, should be a major underdog. That's the part of this story that caught my attention. Emmanuel Navarette's next fight and who his opponent is, and I have to say, I don't often criticize Top Rank's matchmaking, but when it comes to El Vaquero, when it comes to Emmanuel, there's something to be said about that, because Emmanuel stands the best chance of emerging as this division's undisputed champion if someone would put forward the effort, because Top Rank isn't going to.
The opportunity's been there, they just haven't tried.
Immediately after Lamont Roach beat Hector Luis Garcia for the WBA title, when O'Shaquie Foster became WBC champion, and Top Rank signed him.
The opportunity's been there, they just haven't tried.
When Joe Cordina had the IBF and when Anthony Cacace beat him for it.
The opportunity's been there, they just haven't tried.
Now the IBF title is currently vacant, and it's my understanding that Sugar Nunez is going to be fighting for it in his next fight. Not the point. That Emmanuel Navarette has been a champion at 130 pounds long enough that belts have changed hands, new champions have been crowned, and all the while, no effort has been put forward to put him in a unification match. You've got him fighting Charlie Suarez in a main event. Who the hell is that?
I remember in Emmanuel's last fight, O'Shaquie Foster, who is also signed to Top Rank, he was there, likely gathering a scouting report for a potential opponent, but instead...
Rumor has it that O'Shaquie Foster may be traveling to the Southern Hemisphere for a Liam Wilson fight. That's the last I heard as it pertains to O'Shaquie, that a fight between O'Shaquie and Liam Wilson is reportedly in talks to happen in Australia in either May or June of this year, according to the Fox Sports broadcast for Wilson's rematch with Yusuf Dib.
So you say that Lamont Roach is otherwise preoccupied. He's going to go into a rematch with Gervonta, north of 130. You say that the IBF title is currently vacant. There is no IBF champion, but the O'Shaquie Foster fight, that's the one that you should have been able to make, and make easy.
So that if it doesn't happen, there's no one to blame but Top Rank, I think. I think Top Rank has poured a lot of effort into a lot of other fighters that would have been well spent on Emmanuel Navarette. When you're paying a guy like Shakur $3 million per fight to lay an egg, or a Teofimo Lopez
to do the same thing while criticizing you, then hightail it to somebody else's promotion.
You have to wonder that the money that they spent promoting those fighters and paying those fighters wouldn't have been better spent on Emmanuel Navarette, who doesn't lay an egg, who is in consistently fan-friendly fights that people enjoy, action fights. He's not a diva. When you spend in $3 million per fight on Shakur Stevenson, you wonder that you can't split that in two to put Emmanuel in the ring with one of the other champions at the weight. If no one else, O'Shaquie Foster, who's been right there.
I feel like if they would have put the effort in El Vaquero that they've already put in some other fighters, put up the money that they've put up for some other fighters,
he would be a bigger name by now because all the ingredients are there. The built-in Mexican fan base, the fan-friendly style, the action,
the accomplishments. He's already a 3-weight champion.
And I can't help but think, looking at this upcoming Charlie Suarez fight, that somebody at Top Rank is asleep at the wheel when it comes to this fighter, because you should be able to do better. By now you should. It's established. El Vaquero is never in a boring fight. He's not a diva. He's very accomplished. And I imagine that his fights don't even cost that much to put together.
Fighting a Charlie Suarez at this point for somebody like him is just a waste of goddamn time.
And that's the main event. On the undercard, we're going to see unbeaten Raymond Muratalla take on Zaur Abdullaev in what is an IBF final eliminator. And that is of some significance because as soon as that fight is over, irrespective of who wins, that puts pressure on Vasyl Lomachenko to fight them. He's been in limbo,
on hiatus, courting retirement, and some are starting to accuse him of holding the red belt hostage. That if you want to retire, that's fine, but you shouldn't keep that belt while you do it.
I anticipate that Raymond Muratalla will beat Zaur Abdullaev and go on to become Vasyl Lomachenko's mandatory challenger. What Vasyl Lomachenko decides to do after that, your guess is as good as mine, because he did turn down the Gervonta Davis fight that he so vigorously pursued for years. Years later, he's just not interested anymore. So, is he gonna be interested in fighting the winner of this fight?
If he's not, he's gonna have to cough up that belt. We know the IBF are very Johnny on the spot with their mandatories, and they've stripped anyone of a title, from Gennady Golovkin to Canelo Alvarez to Tyson Fury, Joe Cordina in more recent years.
They recently put Anthony Cacace on the spot with his mandatory challenger, Sugar Munez. They're about to put Vasyl Lomachenko on the spot with the winner of this fight, which in some ways is good news.
I don't hate the guy. I got nothing against him, but something has to give.
For anyone who is looking for reconciliation as it pertains to the red belt at this particular weight, it would seem that after May, we're about to get it.
It's fight or flight for the reigning champion, and we'll see what he decides to do.
Just in keeping with the theme of IBF eliminators, Lubin versus Holmes Jr. is an IBF eliminator set to go down May 10th to crown the next mandatory challenger for Bakram Murtazaliev.
Who, after he beat the hell out of Tim Kazoo, made quite a splash, but he seems to be struggling to land a big-name opponent. There was a blurb a little over a week ago about a Virgil Ortiz fight that doesn't look to be happening.
Which is why I didn't waste any of my time on it, or yours, because I didn't expect it would happen. That between the Sergey Bohachuk fight and the Madrimov fight that Virgil just had, I don't think they're just going to rush him in there with Bakram Murtazaliev. That's a very tough sequence of fights.
Why go after Bakram's one IBF title when you're already in line to fight Sebastian Fundora for his two, his green belt and his brown one?
Common sense. And so it would seem that Bakram Murtazaliev, IBF champion, unbeaten, is struggling to land a big-name opponent. But we know that, if nothing else, he will have the winner of this fight to contend with. What's curious is that Erickson Lubin's next fight is happening on ProBox and not PBC on Amazon.
We've been seeing a good number of fighters that normally fight on PBC shows end up on ProBox, like Jason Rosario, Jarrett Hurd, Angelo Leo,
now Erickson Lubin, accenting what I've been telling you all along, that the PBC on Amazon simply don't have the resources to keep their fighters busy, so all they really can do is outsource them to other promotions and make money that way, whatever percentage they get out of that fighter's purse, based on who else is willing to pay them, because they can't.
They don't have the money, they don't have the fight dates, but if somebody else does and they're willing to pay them, go ahead.
Which is a far cry from what their policy used to be. Their in-house policy that prevented a lot of fights from happening on the premise they didn't want their in-house talent going somewhere else to be content for someone else.
Well, now you don't have a choice.
I've heard it said that ProBox has some affiliation, some ties to the PBC, which is why you see so many of their fighters making appearances on that platform. But the optics still ain't good when you consider that a good number of these fighters used to fight on a premium cable network, a giant in its heyday, Showtime, to fighting on YouTube.
Yeesh.
How the mighty have fallen, and the PBC is fast becoming little more than just a middleman, a booking agent for a good number of these fighters they can't keep busy themselves.
This isn't a bad move for Erickson Lubin, though. It's not a bad move at all. Need I remind you that Angelo Leo rebuilt his career on ProBox, and so did Lamont Roach right before he landed the Davis fight.
Remember that Angelo Leo used to be a Mayweather Promotions fighter, and he eventually left the promotion sometime past, and he reappeared on ProBox for 1 or 2 fights.
Lamont Roach used to be a Golden Boy Promotions fighter.
He ended up beating Hector Luis Garcia for the WBA title on a PBC show, and he subsequently defended the title once or twice on ProBox to keep busy, to keep active, and stay ready. So it's not actually a bad idea for Erickson Lubin to fight there. It's just a bad look for the PBC because this used to be your fighter. What's he doing over there?
I will be paying attention to this show because it is of some consequence. It's a solid show all around. Lubin versus Holmes Jr. And on that undercard, we're going to be seeing Nazarena Romero defend her WBA title against Mayeli Flores. That's on this show.
That's gonna be a barn burner. That's gonna be a shootout. So I'm looking forward to this in May.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, tenuous reports that David Benavidez's team was informed during negotiations that they will not be getting the Dimitri Bivol fight next, so he is looking towards Callum Smith, a fight that I am not against.
And neither is WBO President Gustavo Olivieri, who said, I would not object to David Benavidez versus Callum Smith.
Remember that while David Benavidez has the interim title with the WBC, Callum Smith has it via the WBO.
And to all of these reports that have been circulating, Samson Lewkowicz, David's longtime handler, had this to say.
This is the only fight that we like. There's no other fight. Now everybody's talking about Carl Smith. It could happen only for the WBC full title, not for any other thing. It was no more, I would say, interim championship for Benavidez. He never took a step aside, and you can send a message to everyone that it will never happen without the full title of WBC. The president, Mauricio Suleiman, say that that's what it be. Or first a first bid, or you go straight to strip him if he doesn't fight Bivol, the interim champion, David Benavidez.
Have there been talks for a Bivol fight?
No, it was an offer from the other side. We say
From Riyadh season?
Yeah, to fight somebody else for a good money-wise.
You want to pay attention to that, because what Samson just admitted is that Riyadh season offered David a fight in the interim while he waits for the trilogy.
They turned it down. Why? It's not like you're not guaranteed the winner, unless you lose.
Unless you lose that interim fight, then you're not guaranteed anything. Is that why they turned it down?
But the money, buy loyalty. And the loyalty for us is the WBC in this moment.
What the hell does loyalty to the WBC have to do with anything? What the hell does that have to do with you keeping busy with someone at Riyadh season while you wait for the winner of Bivol versus Better Beef 3? Let me tell you something. They're not playing hardball for a Dimitri Bivol fight. They're playing hardball for a vacant title. That's what they're after. That's what they're hoping for, that they can get a belt without having to fight the winner of that fight.
Because you're already guaranteed the winner of that fight. All you have to do is wait. And while you wait, they offered you a stay busy fight for money that you admit was very good.
So why not take it? It's because underneath it all, it's not their intention to get the winner of that fight in the ring. They're not after the winner of Bivol versus Better Beef. They're after a vacant title so that they don't have to fight the winner of Bivol versus Better Beef.
I saw veteran boxing scribe Jake Donovan celebrate Samson Lewkowicz's hardline stance, saying, "Glad to see David Benavidez and Lewkowicz stand their ground on this one. David Benavidez has done enough and waited long enough for a shot at the crown."
Calm down, Toots. He's only been at light heavyweight for 2 fights.
Michael Eifert's been waiting longer than David Benavidez. What the hell are you talking about?
I am so sick of members of the media celebrating the bullshit from the PBC and these PBC fighters, because that's what it is. It's bullshit. What the hell is so wrong with David keeping busy while he waits for the winner of that fight?
How is that a bad thing?
You stay active, you stay sharp, and you still get the winner of that fight. Nothing changes unless you lose.
Then you ain't guaranteed nothing.
I wonder who it was they offered David Benavidez in the interim. Was it Callum Smith? Because Samson is only receptive to the Callum Smith fight if it's for the full WBC title. But for it to be for the full title, they have to strip Dimitri. Is Mauricio really willing to do that? Is he really willing to rock the boat?
You take away the title from Dimitri to give it to David, and you don't make as much money. Dimitri Bivol was estimated to have made $10 million from the Artur Better Beef fight. I don't think David Benavidez has taken home that kind of scratch from the fights he's having here in America.
I do not think he made $10 million fighting a 37-year-old Alexander Bajdik. I do not think he made $10 million fighting David Morrell. No, sir.
The sanctioning fee, the 3% that the WBC takes from the fighters' purse. 3% of $10 million is roughly $300,000. 3%. So that if you take that title away from Dimitri and you give it to David, the percentage you collect is going to be substantially less. And it's going to be from his baseline purse, his guaranteed purse. Not from the imaginary upside of some pay-per-view. It's going to be from his guaranteed purse. What do you think they're guaranteeing David to fight the likes of David Morrell? I'm going to round up. Generous guesstimate, let's just say for argument's sake, they guaranteed David $3 million for that fight. 3% of $3 million is roughly $90,000. That's a lot less than you'd make just letting Dimitri keep the belt. And don't forget that if you let Dimitri keep the belt, you know with some certainty that you're going to get those sanctioning fees on a regular basis because Turkey keeps these guys busy. It doesn't take him long to make these fights. Whereas if you take the belt from Dimitri to give it to David, you don't know when he's going to fight. He only fought once last year. I don't even know if he's going to fight again this one. And if he does, who's he going to fight? You get a vacant title, you come back to America, and what do you think? That everybody's going to flock over to you when the real money's in Saudi? Take Turkey Al Sheikh out of it and all of his cash injections. The rest of the money in the light heavyweight division is not in America, it's in Britain. Who are we talking about? Callum Smith? Anthony Yard? Joshua Buatsi? Ben Whitaker? Lyndon Arthur? The rest of the money in this division is in Britain. And if you want to lure one of those Brits to America, you can't pay them the way you pay David Morrell. They're making good money already. None of those guys fight on the cheap. So on the predication that the World Boxing Council would strip Dimitri of the belt to give it to David, what the hell's David gonna do after that? You're gonna have a belt, and what else? Who are you gonna defend it against? For what amount of money? It's bizarre hearing Samson Lewkowicz pledge his fealty to the World Boxing Council, the WBC, the same WBC who never ordered the Canelo Alvarez fight is the same WBC that you're now saying you're loyal to. It's funny because I've seen David on more than one podcast trashing the WBC, complaining that they never ordered the fight. This is the same WBC you're loyal to, though. These people can never get their story straight, but the bottom line is, they're not playing hardball because they want a Bivol fight. They're playing hardball because they want a vacant title, and they're hoping the World Boxing Council will assist them in that effort. Will they, is the question. I don't know. If they do, it's going to cost them a lot of money. Their organization. David ain't generating so much and selling so much in America that there's more in it for you if he has the title.